You're seated at the back, I'll come get you to the front. Yeah, the naughty kids are not going to be at the back. The naughty kids are going to be in the front. You greet like that in the morning. Hey, fellow creative. How are you? Awesome. So I'm really excited about this morning's session. And we're going to just dive into it. It's just a conversation. I'm going to ask you that you just keep your phones on silent. Once the program commences, please just make sure that if you have a question, just rise, introduce yourself, and then ask your question. Please ask nice questions, guys. Don't ask, I don't. Be joined by a gentleman. I look up to him. I call him Uncle. Hey, Uncle Dalton. Ladies and gentlemen, and all my fellow creators, he goes a long way. Now, when I talk about a long way, I want to actually read his bio. It says here, Mr. Dalton. Let me quickly go. Oh, Uncle Dalton, you have a very long bio.
Call me cousin.
Okay, uncle cousin.
No, uncle cousin. Just
no,
cousin.
but the uncle must be there. The uncle must be there. No, I'm kidding. Now, Uncle Dalton has accomplished a lot. You see, the uncle just comes naturally. Dalton Ashikota is an accomplished actor and a producer. He's got extensive experience in film, television, as well. Notable productions he has worked on are productions such as The Edge, African Dishes with a Twist, and Once Upon a Nomad for Al Jazeera. His acting credits span from films like Kite, Katutura, as well as roles in Rhythm City, and of course the very famous one, Generations, The Legacy. He's also studied at the New York Film Academy, and he continues to be a notable name within the Namibia creative and film industry. Let's give Mr. Dalton Ashikota a round of applause.
Thank you.
Mr. Dalton, we're just going to dive into it. You know, we're having a conversation. Today is about a masterclass. You have notably been so influential when it comes to the acting scene and also set the premise of representing Namibia. When did it all start for you, and when did that change just come where you realized, but me wanting to do this, and that turning point to, I'm going to put the work into creating this as a creative space for myself?
Adriano, thanks for making the time. I think essentially what acting is about storytelling, right? I think storytelling is part of the human experience. That's something we need. It's through storytelling that we learn, that we carry on cultures, that we learn to survive. Because without the stories, you don't learn about other people's experiences. And those are the tools that you need to survive in this world. So being an actor, you're basically just a tool of those storytelling. So I have no idea where this came from, but when I think about it, you know, some of us grew up in those days when we didn't have televisions at home. They're in Katuturane. Okay, now you can call me Uncle.
I can attest to that.
So you remember your aunties and the mothers, you know, they used to sit around drinking their katafels and tell stories. So all those aunties, when they sit there and tell their stories, I think it all, you know, as a young person, you sit there listening to their stories. They send you around, go buy this Fanta, go buy this Coca-Cola, this Tafel, and you listen to their stories. So it you know, you start emulating them, and that, I think, that's where it started. My mother was a very good storyteller. She would sit around with all her friends and tell them stories. And after that, I became that kid that, you know, when the teacher goes out of class, I'm the one that goes in front of the class and you know, tell stories. But didn't make much of it. Went to college, studied something else completely. on a particular day, we went to an audition with a friend, and for a theater piece. I wasn't even going to audition. Then they asked me to, just try out. And then I got the part. Actually, got the main part. I was like, what? Okay, I enjoyed it. So I think that's where the bug caught me. And fast forward, came back home. We started doing a couple of plays. We had a theater company. I think Lazarus Jacobs, Vixen, Angula, that whole crew. We did some really good shows. We traveled throughout Namibia. Some of the shows we did were a Martin Luther King play. We did a Toivo play. We traveled throughout the whole of Namibia. And then after that, I did a lot of stuff with NBC on a freelance basis. Penduka, we did Penduka. We started Penduka. I don't know if you know Penduka.
No, I do.
You know,
every Friday.
I think you only know Watagwan.
No. No, we know Penduka.
Okay, so we started Penduka. We did a lot of naming. We did a couple of feature films with Cecil Miller, some series, those Once Upon a Time, all those. Did a whole lot of stuff on NBC. Then after that, fast forward, did a lot of workshops and courses in LA, Miami, etc. Started doing a lot of work in SA, commercials, TV productions, series, a couple of famous ones, etc. And then so we keep moving from there.
I love the fact that, with the creatives, it's always like, okay, cool, I've done that, fast forward, I've done that, fast forward, because we always don't take credit for the work that we've done, because realizing that even a theater play takes so much work, because even during a theater play, you're like, but why am I doing this to myself? I'm not getting paid enough. Then I need to do intensive characterization, and then we perform 2-3 days. 3 months of work that we've put into this work is just done within 3 days. Take us through a journey of how you prepare for a role. For example, a theater play, that very first theater play you've done. How do you get into extensively saying, but I'm delving away from being Dalton and jumping into this character?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much difference preparing for a role for theater or television, but there are certain steps that you could look at. I think what's the first thing you do when you get a script? You do what they do, a script analysis, where you look at your script and you read it and you read it and you read it. If you look at the A-list actors, when they get a script, they read that script up to 300-400 times just to try and understand the nuances, picking up those kind of small aspects of the script, understanding the script. So the first thing you do is your script analysis, and then from there you do your character analysis, trying to understand who the character is. Because remember, art imitates life, so all of these characters are basically, derived from some sort of living beings. So you try and understand your character. What that means is, who's your character? Where does he come from? Where did he go to school? What are his childhood memories, his childhood traumas? Because all of those, will drive how you play the character. If the character, for example, went to school in America, you could have a slight twang, how are you doing, kind of thing.
The American accent.
You know what I mean? So all of that is all part of character, characterization. Some scripts will have it, some won't have it. So if your script doesn't have it, you have to find it, because that's what adds the color to your performance. And it's the smallest things. If you look at some of the A-list actors, you look at them like, well, there's something interesting about their performance. I'll give you an example of Denzel, one of my favorite actors, in The Equalizer. Have you noticed when he sits on the table, for example, he'll fold napkins and then he'll put the cutleries in a specific way? What does that mean? So he decided when he was doing his character, building his character, he decided his character is OCD, for example. So what that means is then he will add those flavors to that. So those are all part of your backstories, basically adding colors to your character. The other thing is then to look at what are your internal conflicts, or what are your conflicts, because at the end of the day, most of stories or most of life has to do with conflicts. We're all going through conflict every time. And when you have a script, usually it will have three aspects: your beginning, your middle, and your end. And your middle is usually where the conflict, that's where the juice is of the performance. Now, you have to now look at where's the conflict. And then you have to divide it into, there's always an internal conflict, there's an external conflict. Now, the internal conflict is the conflict within yourself. Because, say for example, your objective of the character is to get a job. So what is this conflict that hinders the person to get the job? It could be he's insecure, or those are internal conflicts. How does he overcome that? So understanding what your character's internal conflicts are helps you to bring it out. Because only if you understand that he's insecure, you'll be able to bring that out. So that adds color to your performance. External conflicts could be that guy that also wants your job. So he is fighting you, he's bad-mouthing you. How do you deal with that? So understanding all your conflicts. Also, then how do you, one of the most important things is the character's wants and needs. Because if you look at all films, is, you know, this character is going through the normal life, something happened, now he wants something. Now he's running after something. Now there's conflicts, obstacles, and he's running. So you need to understand what your character's objective is. What does he want? Because only then, and then you focus all your energy on what the character wants, and then in between you have actions that you have to implement to get to your character. So you have to understand. So when you read that script 200 times, you're actually making notes. Right. Like, oh, in this scene he wants this. So what are the small pieces that he's going through to get there? So you make all of those analyses, and then you play them. Because remember, for example, when you're shooting a film, you don't shoot it all of it. Yeah. One day you shoot one scene in the middle, so you're gonna know where your character is emotionally at that particular time. So, and play it accordingly. So you're gonna know where he is in his wants as well. So you break it down in that, basing on that. And then eventually you need to do a lot of rehearsals. At the end of the day, that's why they say playing a character. When you're playing a character, it means you have to play it until you get the sense of, you know, what feels right. I mean, I'm not sure most of you have looked at kids playing. That's the most natural state of human beings. And I think as we grow older, we forget to play. But I love watching kids playing, because they're just so creative. That they play the card they're doing a car here on top, and then they drive it here, and then the wall. So that's what you should do.
Imagination.
The imagination. So that's what you should do. Then rehearse, and you play until you feel what's natural. But then, the most important thing is, as an actor, you could have the talent, but you must have the skill. The talent is the one that gets you in the door, but the skills are the one that sustain you. So you gotta learn all the time. Even the A-list actors, they are on workshops all the time. You can never know enough. So there are a few techniques that you can learn. I'm just gonna run through them a little bit. For example, you can look at method acting. Method acting has to do with where you go through your past emotional memories to, you know, implement them in a role you're playing. And this is a technique that you can mostly use when your role is very emotionally challenging. So it could be an example of you going through your role. You lost something in your role. So to bring out that emotion, you could tap into something that happened at the time you lost your cat, for example, and bring that back. So that's method acting. Guys like Marlon Brando, those are some of the tools they use. So you have other tools like your Meissner technique, which is spontaneous reaction. That's probably one of my favorite. This one, you forget about everything. All you do is you focus on the other actors and you react.
Would one that say that's also sort of improv, right?
Yeah, that's another technique. Now, improv, comedians use that a lot. because improv teaches you how to say yes to everything. It teaches you how to act on your feet. Most of the comedians do practice improv because they have to be on their feet, because somebody will throw something at you and the audience, you have to go with it. But as actors, those are techniques you can learn, because they also some of the most beautiful scenes in film came from improv. I don't know if you've seen the Django Unchained with Leonardo, right?
Yes, I have.
There's this scene where he get cut. He get a cut, right? He actually got cut, like that's blood. Because he probably practices improv, he didn't stop. He just continues. Because with improv, it teaches you to just say yes to everything, and that was probably one of the best scenes in that show. You could look at some of the techniques like actioning. Actioning is where, that's also some technique I really like, where you break down your scenes in main objective and sub-objectives. So you decide, okay, this guy wants the job, that's his objective. So what does he need? Specific actions. So all of the lines, you break them down into verbs, and then you play the verb. Whatever the action is, you play that to get to the action. So you actually go through your script and you write the verbs on what needs to be done, and then you have your Stanislavski methods, where you don't use your real emotions, you can use imaginary emotions. So you get a script, you create an imaginary scenario. How will my character act, in this instance? So those are some of the methods that are out there, but they take time to learn. And you gotta attend courses, you gotta attend workshops. I do some workshops now and then. And people go to school for these things, 4 years to learn some of these techniques, to really get them, because it's practice until it get into your system. So acting has to do not just with natural talent, but also skill. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have that skill, you'll not be able to dive into those characters. So you have to find that balance. Even if you don't have the natural talent and you learn the skill, it's a skill like anything else.
I love how you contrast both, that you, at least if you've got the talent, you need to have the skills, which is very important. So he whispered and he said that everybody that's attended, he's going to make sure that he's going to send those skills through to us and make sure that after the workshop we all have that on email, right?
No, I can send you a few things, no problem, but you have to practice. You must actually come to my workshop. So we're supposed to do a workshop together, me and you. So we should do another one.
After this.
No, like a proper one. You need
definitely.
Just to get the basic, you need like a whole week. But we can do a 2-day workshop, and even do, the last one I did was on actioning. So what you can do on different stuff. But it's nice to know all of the techniques, because each role can demand, if you're playing an emotionally charged role, you can use method acting, for example. If you're using this, you can use that. So, you can use, it's good to know all of them, and just be able to play around with them where it's needed.
Right. So I want to dive into our next question, because we've got the skills, we've got the talent now. How do actors prepare for a role when they audition? Because we live in a time where, I think post-COVID, actors are now exposed to self-tapes, and also being our biggest script. You now sit in front of a camera, you also directing yourself, you've got a script, preparing for a role. How do you as an actor, and maybe possible notable points that you can say, okay, these are a few nuggets to prepare for either a self-tape or a physical audition? And maybe with that said, how do directors identify? Because I think there's a bigger challenge with actors always saying, but you know what, there was a role that Vixen Hangula just casted for and I auditioned for it because it said colored. But now I show up and it just said colored between the ages of 30. I didn't get the role, and I have a personal vendetta against Vixen, but not realizing, but I was not the specific character fit for the role. How do we confidently say, but even if I don't get it, it's also okay? I know it's a twofold question.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, auditions are very different from performing, even the way you prepare for auditions, because you don't even get the whole script. You get like a little piece, so you have no context, you have no backstory, you don't understand the character where it is. So you have to make up most of it, and because the directors don't expect you to play the character accordingly, but you take that. Learn the lines as much as you can, because that helps, gives you a bit of confidence. Once you learn the lines, you are able then to go and say and just commit to a specific thing, and then you do it. Now, what they usually look for in auditions, you will see that when you do one part, they will say try it this way and try it that way. What they're trying to do is they're trying to see how adaptable you are to direction. That is the most thing they look for in auditions. So always listen to the director when he gives you notes to do this, because at the end of the day, they want to know, oh, if I'm working with this guy and I give him instructions, he won't waste my time, he'll get it. So that's the most important thing, is to your director's direction, to implement it. Some of it is, I like reading people's stories, like Leonardo, in his start, he doesn't do auditions anymore. You know, this guy just gets scripts. So in his earlier years, he will say, the only way that I could get my roles, whatever I do something out of the ordinary for them to remember me. Like, he'll do some crazy stuff. He'll just jump on the table or whatever. So they'll always remember him. I think the other thing that you also need to remember is, if you don't get the part, it doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means you're not the right person for the part. So what you need to do is always just go in, do your best. Because most of the time, if you do your best, they will remember you for a next role or for another role. My personal experience when I did the auditions for Generations, the part I auditioned for is not the one I got. I did my thing, then okay, they don't fit for this role, but I think we have something else. So it's about just giving your best, whatever you have. And once you do your auditions, go home, don't think about it, don't beat yourself about it, just like, if they call, they call, if they don't call, they don't call. But if you have given it your best, even if they don't call you for a next one, the next time they have an audition, they remember you, oh, this guy. But they'll keep finding something for you. So when auditions are good. Go to as many auditions, do your best. They will give you the role, or they give you another role. But it's never that you're not good enough. It's just that wasn't the part for you, because each part they have a specific vision for the person. So if you have that in mind, you should be okay. Yeah.
No, I love that. It's like going for an interview. You might not be the one that gets the job. Yeah. Resources in Namibia are always limited. It's not that we always have productions available, always have theater plays. We've also seen that post-COVID theater has literally been shut. We don't have enough theater plays as well. But looking at the space and the time that we're in, how do you stay motivated as an actor? How do you stay motivated to say, but at least if I'm not able to perform, I'm able to enhance a skill through either venturing into being behind the scenes, for example, directing, casting, because you've got a vast repertoire with that inclusive of South Africa.
Yeah. I mean, Namibia, unfortunately, we are not as many. Okay, I'm lucky enough I've been able to work outside the country. But not everybody might have the opportunity. But there are opportunities in the sense that we all have this thing that when I do a movie, I need 5 million to do a movie. But with technology these days, with a small phone, you can do 1 minute, 2 minutes. There's TikTok now. There's Instagram, whatever. You can create stories. Those are all part of creating content. So the platforms are there. So you're not even limited to Namibia anymore. Your audience can be anywhere else. So that's the beauty about technology. So I think the mindset should just change, that I must wait for Adriana to make a movie so I can audition. Otherwise, there's nothing happening in Namibia. No, I've seen now, like, a lot of young people on TikTok and stuff, they're doing some really good stuff. I'm like, next time I have a movie, I'm just going to call this guy, because, that's all part of India, and they're making money out of this stuff. So the opportunities are there. Just do it. And like we said, now you can create your own content. You can be your own producer. It can be your own director. You can be your own distributor. So the possibilities are endless. And you start somewhere. It's basically free stuff to start. Everybody's got a mobile phone, and the next thing leads to the next leads to the next. So I think the technology has taken away borders. So we're not restricted to like it's a small country. You know, we can do. If you have the passion, create 2 hours a day, create content, go in the street, record, whatever. You know, you'll make it. And just there's so much stuff on YouTube, for example. How do you teach yourself from your voice to all of that stuff? You go on YouTube, there's always somebody teaching you something. You take a little moment. But if you really want to be in the creative, in this space, you have to keep practicing. You have to keep doing something, even every day. Okay, I'm guilty of that. I don't do much anymore of that. Because transitioning more into producing. But before, I will do something every day for 2 hours. It being voice or producing or writing a script or reading a script or something. Just keep doing something.
Enhance that skill continuously.
It's a skill, yeah.
Now we're going to open up the floor for questions. So can we just get the roaming mic ready? As we're getting that ready, I'll just reiterate that if you have a question, just raise your hand, rise and ask, and also tell us where you're from. Before we get into the questions, should actors think of themselves as an entity, as a business? Yesterday in conversation, we also heard that you just spoke about, yes, we are a small country, but how do actors then still do all of it, yet also think of themselves as a business, then still go to auditions? Because I think as an actor, you've got so much to do. You need to think of yourself as a business, you need to show up, you need to go to the awards, you need to network, and there's always a list of endless. So do you need to think of yourself as a business, yet also the talent, yet also be visible in a director's face to say, hey, when are we working together, or when are we casting, or because now you've seen actors venture into being directors, being script writers, being director of photographies, where they, find a space, or is it that we need to get into this?
Yeah, okay, the different scenarios. I'm giving you the extreme now. For example, the A-list actors. They're actors, but they have a lot of people taking care of their business. They have an agent, they have a manager, they have a guy that just do the hair, that do the publicists, that do the deal structure, that take care of business. And they focus only on the art, on the acting. Now, unfortunately, if you're not a professional actor, for example, you might not be able to afford all these services. So you gotta be a jack of all trades. But get the basics right. Get an agent, for example. The agent is the one that will work for you, find your roles, because you can't be running around finding roles, because they get a cut. You don't have to pay them even. They get a cut from every deal that you get. So the basic one, at least get an agent that works for you. After that, you can graduate and get a manager. The manager is the one that sort of creates your vision, know where you want to go, and collaborate and do the business part of things. So it's like any other business. Short answer is yes. It is a business. Can be a business. And if you want to progress to the next thing, you have to have the team around. It's like any other business. You're either a sole entrepreneur, and you'll be running around. You're the driver. You're the cleaner. You're the CEO, you're the toilet cleaner, you're the whatever it is, but you're on scale, right? Because you're still doing, you only have this much time. So it's the same thing with acting. If you look at it as a business, you can get a team around you, and they will be able to, move you to the next. So yeah.
Are we ready for those questions? Mr. Banana, how are you? Well, thank you, Mr. Philander. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to clarify. I want to hear from you two talking to each other. I thought it was meant for these people. So is it part of the interview that you do now?
That's part of the interview.
There's some confusion. Are you talking about stage performances or are you talking about movies? Because there's confusion here. What I have sit and listened to you guys now. Just
We are-
clarify that to me.
So we're highlighting on both factors, which is film and theater.
Is that a fact? Because there's still some confusion, but I'll elaborate later on.
Okay.
As a playwright of substance, okay? But not now.
Thank you, Mr.
Give
Philander.
these people a chance. I'd like to hear their views.
Thank you, Mr. Philander.
Good morning. I just want to say something from my own experience when it comes to acting. I think acting is a medium for anything. If you stand in front of people, it's not just for movies. Now we are limiting acting just for movie. Even when I was playing soccer, I used to bring in ingredients of acting to make it more interesting for the fans. Because nowadays soccer is very dry and boring because they left out that acting part. They are just moving for instruction from a coach. And I also use acting into preaching. I become a preacher. So my